There is no Zambia without KK.
I regard him or consider him in the class of Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King.
He's a living legend, I must say. He's a living legend.
I have to give it to the old man. He doesn't know, if that's the right term, when to quit. Because he just goes and goes. After office, it's like he never left.
I just thank God, young man, that he has made it possible for me to live this long and be able to help reshape this nation into something wonderful.
I consider him the epitome of Zambia.
Look at what he has done for this country. I think we owe him quite a great deal.
That's the person we admire his life. We would like to be like him.
Kaunda he was a brand. He was the brand. I remember. Yeah, right. Yes, but those days, I mean, he was on the money. He was on the coins. He was powerful.
Kaunda is quite a special man.
He fought for independence.
Zambia, a landlocked country in south-central Africa, home to the mighty Zambezi River and the Victoria Falls. A former British colony, Zambia gained independence on 24th October 1964. Kenneth David Kaunda was the first president of independent Zambia. He ruled Zambia through a one-party state system until the democratic wave swept through the African continent. Kaunda conceded defeat in free and fair elections on the 2nd of November 1991. An African leader's life is considered to end after they leave office. But this has not been the case with Kaunda. This year, Kaunda celebrated his 88th birthday. And from the look of things, he is not slowing down.
Happy birthday, dear Kenneth.
Musician, sportsman, author, and now fashion icon, Kaunda is out and about. What keeps him going? That's what we want to find out.
My name is Kenneth Kaunda, first president of Zambia. For my family, whose father is a reverend, whose mother is a teacher.
It's got a laughter, got you know, there's so much soul in the grandfather laughter. So innocent and so real.
Kaunda is one leader who believed in visiting communities. He would visit an ordinary ward chairman of his party in a township, and all of us would gather. He would visit a market, and everybody would go there. He would visit our schools, and lining up for him was so much fun. Waiting, sometimes you don't even see his face, but you would be sure of seeing his handkerchief.
We would be asked to line the roads, and they would give us these nice little Zambian flags, and he would come with his motorcade and he would slow down, take out his handkerchief, you know, would flash his biggest smile, and he would wave at us.
I forget I am Kenneth Kaunda's grandson because it's just something that I am. But often it's people that remind me who I am. When he remembers me, I'm surprised. He knows my name. But yes, he knows who we are. He doesn't forget he doesn't forget his grandkids. There was one time I do remember, I did have a long talk with Granddad, and it was very insightful. He told me, I asked him, is this what you expected after independence? He just laughed.
From the media perception, this is an interviewer's interviewee. It makes you look good. His ability to drive home the issue of international, peace. The man reminded me of Gandhi. All he wanted was to see this world free.
I met Dr. Kaunda in 1960 in Osaka. Talking to him, I got inspired, and I got inspiration that this was a man who was fighting for something that we as Africans in those days believed in.
What has helped me to shape my life is the teaching, love God your Creator with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. As to that one, he has made in his image like you. The teaching is love your neighbor as you love yourself. Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. When I got involved in the struggle for independence against British colonialism, I realized we had 73 tribes in my country, Zambia today, Northern Rhodesia in those days, indigenous tribes.
Welcome to A Conversation with History. I'm Harry Chrysler of the Institute of International Studies. Our distinguished guest today is His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda, who was President of Zambia from 1964 to 1991. After his retirement from politics, Dr. Kaunda became very active in the NGO sector, gaining particular renown for his efforts to address the AIDS crisis and for his founding of an NGO, Children of Africa Foundation. He is being honored in California by Project Concern International. Project Concern International mission is to prevent disease, improve community health, and promote sustainable development. President Kaunda, welcome to California.
Thank you very much indeed. You're most welcome.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born at a place called Lubwa Mission in Chinsali district, Northern Rhodesia. Today's Zambia. I was born of missionaries. My father was a reverend, my mother was a teacher. They came from a place called Nyasaland, today's Malawi, and traveled to my home in Northern Rhodesia, and I was born there as last born in my family.
Mm-hmm. And your mother was, I read somewhere, the first teacher in Zambia?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Was that good for you growing up?
Very good indeed.
Yeah. Looking back, how do you think your parents shaped your thinking about the world?
From the teaching, the two main commandments, Christ's teaching, love God your Creator with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. We're teaching how to relate to our Creator. Then comes the second one, second commandment, love thy neighbor as thou lovest thyself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These two commandments have stuck with me and have found them very useful in terms of guiding my thoughts, words, and deeds.
And you took these to both your careers. First, you were an educator before you became a political leader.
Yes, I was trained as a teacher at the same school, same place, because later on my parents were joined by missionaries from Scotland, from the Church of Scotland, Presbyterian, and they built a very important institution in terms of schools, health, and so I was brought up there.
Was it hard to make the transition from education to politics?
Not really, because even at the place where I was born, as I was growing up, I could see clearly the differences in terms of treatment between my parents and the white missionaries. Yet both were missionaries, but there was a difference in the way they were treated. So I began to talk about such things, and so that place also helped me to try and help build a better society, a society where human beings are human beings.
So you're saying that you sensed the way people were being treated differently, and so in your mind it became important to empower your own people to achieve that equality.
Precisely, and that's very, very true, correct.
Now you also, where I'm going here is I want to get a sense of political skills and how you learn them and your advice to students, but you worked for a while for colonial administrators. You honed your skills as a official of government in that way. Talk a little about that.
I trained as a teacher, and I worked at my school, my birthplace, as a teacher for some 3-4 years, and I left to go and look for better places, better life, and I visited Tanganyika then, Tanzania today, with 2 of my closest friends. We didn't like it. We went back home. Then I went to to Salisbury, Harare today. Again, what I found there was terrible. So I went back home and worked as a welfare officer for some few months, 9 months, and then went back to teaching. From teaching, again, I didn't like it. I went back home to do farming, cooperative farming. From there, when I was teaching now at this second time, I was already involved in politics, because this was what is called the Copper Belt, a very developed area in the northern Rhodesia of our time. And there I got mixed up in politics. Mm-hmm. I never went back until I retired a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you could give a our audience a sense of how you felt the excitement, because you are one of Africa's founding fathers. You were creating a political party which broke off from the ANC, so you were doing that ground level work, but you were also leading a national struggle for independence.
Yes, that's true. As it happens, both the party which I formed after leaving the African National Congress and the African National Congress itself were both struggling against colonialism. So much as we differed in our approaches, I think it is important to relate to the fact that from time to time we still came back together, especially when we were nearing the time of our independence. We're still quite close to each other in terms of fighting colonialism in such a way that at the end we still came back together to form a government of national unity, because we had been standing for similar things, same principles, although we differed in terms of approaches. So yes, we differed from time to time, as I say, but in the end we understood and appreciated the fact that we were fighting for independence together.
At a certain point in this very difficult struggle, you were actually a political prisoner. Over the years on my program, I've interviewed a number of political prisoners, Wole Soyinka among others, and I'm curious, what was the key to survival when you were in prison? Was it the cause that kept you going, or was it the inner strength that you had learned from your parents and your religion?
Well, the inner strength was there, true, but it was an instrument to fight for what we want to achieve. And therefore, the question you raise is very important, because from that, we managed to sort out what was required to be done. And once we got that, we had to find ways of how to get it. And this is we found a way of struggling against colonialism, this time British colonialism in northern Rhodesia. And once we worked out the objective, we began to work out how to get that objective. And this is when we began to mobilize now and organize the people of northern Rhodesia. And I used to do a lot of cycling, because we had no other way of doing it. Cycling, visiting villages.
Bicycling,
yes. Yes, bicycling, yes. One day I met a big lion on the road, all those things.
Did you get his vote?
He ran away from voting. So it was an exciting time, very, very difficult indeed. Tough, but it had to be done.
And did it sounds like as part of this communication and reaching people, was political education, which is what you were doing, was it like education that you had done, when you were a teacher?
No, different, in the sense that when you went out to visit people in villages, in towns, for that matter, you were talking about what was wrong with the government. You were talking about what we should do in order to get a better situation for ourselves and for our children. This was different from what I was doing when I was a teacher. In the classroom, I was teaching kids, young people, young boys, young girls. But this time I was dealing with their parents, and trying to explain to them what was wrong: poor education, poor health services, what was wrong, bad roads, no food, and so on, so on, so on. These are things that one got at the center of the struggle. And that this could only be made better if we got our own government and controlled things. That's how this came about.
Our interviews are watched a lot by students all over the world, and I always like to ask distinguished individuals like you to reflect on your life and tell us what insights you have about the skills that are required for political life. The students will deal with different set of problems, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But what it sounds to me like courage is very important. Just starting off from what you've said.
Another very important question, Harry. First of all, there must be determination to do what is right, knowing that in a British system, you might have to go to prison, away from your family, away from everybody, and you're just going to be a prisoner. How long? You don't know. And it much depends on what you do, what goes wrong according to your colonial masters. You have to think of all these things. And once you make up your mind that you are determined to go ahead, regardless of what happens, then of course you say, yes, I am going to do it. God is great. God will guide me in my thoughts, in my words, in my deeds, whatever I think, say, and do. Once you decide that way, you are then ready to get moving in any situation, regardless of what comes to you. And then, yeah, almost there.
People skills must be also very important. I mean, I know that you had to deal with ethnic differences and so on. So working with people also, and how do you learn that?
I think the first thing, Harry, is that you have to love people. First thing, you have genuinely to have feelings of love for your people. And when you look at what is happening in society, all that angers you, disturbs you, and so you decide, I am going to participate in this fight to establish something better, so that my people can have something better than what we're going through now as a people. Then you ask yourself, am I ready to go to prison for my beliefs? If the answer is yes, very good, you go ahead. If you can't make it, you must be honest with yourself and say, I'm sorry, I cannot participate in this because I can't go to prison. I think that's how the approach is, or was in those days. I'm sure it still is today.
When you achieved independence and you took over the government, I mean, you must have had to really avoid despair, because, I mean, it's not as if, for example, the British left you a university system, an educational system in place. They didn't. You had to build it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. When we took over, Harry, we found 100 university graduates only. In 70 years of British rule, they produced only 100 university graduates. And of these, 3 were medical doctors only. That's all we had. And so when we took over, the first thing to do was education, health.
Kenneth Kaunda. We're now joined by former President of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. Mr. President, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And we begin with condolences, because I know that for someone who was with the ANC in exile, spent many years in Zambia, this is a great loss to you too.
Thanks, Peter. Yes, indeed, it is. Zambia, Peter, as you know, to many of us, Zambia is a second home. Because for over 20 years, that was our headquarters. Zambia hosted the ANC headquarters. President Kaunda hosted the ANC headquarters. So we very, very close to Oliver Tambo, worked very, very closely with Oliver Tambo in terms of our struggle. You recall that at a certain stage, Zambia had to host liberation movements throughout the region, because there was a liberation war on its western borders in Angola, liberation war on its southern borders in Zimbabwe, liberation war on its eastern borders in Mozambique, and then us and SWAPO, all of us in Zambia. And President Kaunda and the Zambian people and UNIP, the governing party, took a very, very firm position that independent Zambia had a responsibility to help achieve this African objective of the total liberation of the continent from colonialism and apartheid. It's very, very close to us, and very... President Kaunda, we count him as one of the architects of a democratic South Africa.
How will you remember him? Let's start as a politician, as a statesman, and then perhaps as a person.
Well, as a politician and a statesman, let me talk in relation to our struggle. Zambia, President Kaunda really had this task of the total liberation of our continent in his heart. It was part of his agenda. It was not a by the way thing, something that I can attend to tomorrow. And the support for the liberation movement, support for the ANC was very critical. I can tell you, for instance, Peter, that at some point, one of us, a member of the ANC, got involved with drug dealers. And they warned us, the police, the Zambia police, they said, look, we're going to arrest the Zambians who are dealing with drugs, and we're going to arrest this member of the ANC who's working with them. But we don't want embarrassment for the ANC. Therefore, just take this member of yours out of Zambia quickly, so that by the time we look for him, we won't find him. Because we must avoid embarrassing the ANC in any way. I'm saying that demonstrated this very intimate connection